Welcome to Katie Bird's Nest. I am Kate, and this is week 7 check-in for The Artist's Way. This is Julia Cameron's 12-week course in recovering creativity. Week 7 is recovering a sense of connection, and the topics in the reading are listening, perfectionism, risk, jealousy, and archaeology and exercise. So for the check-in, I did do my daily pages every day. I've been really good about that the whole time. I'm doing an affirmation page, a 4th page in my journal, and I'm continuing to do the 3 affirmations that I feel haven't completely manifested in my life yet. So that's going well. I mean, it's going well that I'm doing them every day, not that it hasn't manifested yet. So I did not really do an artist date this week. I watched a lot of TV and I went shopping. So I don't know if you consider that an artist date when I was doing those things, because it was kind of me time. But I didn't specifically set out and consider them like, this is my artist date, and then sat down and did it. But I track how much TV I watched, kind of just in general, like if I watch TV on a day or not, and if I play video games on a day or not. And so I had 3 days where I sat and watched TV, whereas the last couple weeks I haven't watched TV at all. I watched Jane Austen movies, remakes, and I watched that Netflix series, The OA. And so I don't know, I had a lot of fun just kind of zoning out and chilling and watching TV. So those are kind of like artist dates, 3 nights of artist dates. But I didn't actually do anything. And the shopping that I did kind of ties into the check-in of coinciding with risk. Did you do anything that was like taking a risk, like outside of your comfort zone? And I bought art supply journals for shopping. Actually, I have a different one for risk, but I'll talk more about the actual reading. A few quotes that stood out to me in the reading were, for listening, it's the idea that the practice of right attitudes for creativity, to hear past our censor, to pick up the voice of inspiration. Art is not about thinking something out. It is about the opposite, getting something down. Art is an act of tuning in and dropping down the well, recovering a sense of connection with the idea that we're a conduit, I think it said. We are channeling creativity, and we are not necessarily the creator of it. We are dropping down into the well, into the stream of creativity, and that's part of the synchronicity that comes along with us. And so I was like, okay, I get that. I can go along with that. Where you get into the flow and things just sort of come to you and you don't really know where they come from, and you have to go along with the creativity. And so I did have that come up in my writing. So I did feel like there was a little bit of synchronicity kind of happening. Things were just sort of handed to me in my writing. I had a few scenes I had a scene that I was working on, and there was like, I thought, oh, I have to work on this transition. And I know in writing a lot of times you don't have to do transitions, you just jump to the next scene. People are used to seeing that nowadays with jump cuts in movies. But I felt like I had to have a transition because there was something that needed to be added, and it was best added during a transition. So I transitioned, I added this piece of information in the transition, and then I had to transition out of the transition, because the transition wasn't a scene, so I couldn't just jump from a transition into the next scene. I had to, she walked down the hall, down to breakfast kind of thing. I had to have a couple sentences. And I felt like those sentences were just sort of handed to me, because I was sort of reaching for, I need to create this setting, this type of part of the narration. I knew I was reaching for part of the structure of the story. And the chapter, as far as a sense of connection, was saying that you're not supposed to be reaching for things. You're straining for something. You're supposed to be letting things come to you, and you're supposed to be listening for things. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to sit down and try and work on this again, and so I'm going to try and listen. And then things just came, and I was in the flow, and I was able to work on that part of the chapter really easily and breeze through and get into the real meat of that scene instead of working on the transition for 2 days. And that was really nice, and I felt like this part of the chapter really helped me drop down into the well and have the synchronicity of whatever it is that being in the flow is kind of helped, and that creativity that's inside of me, or wherever the well happens to be, just kind of manifested. And being in the right mindset really helps. And that part of the book got me into that mindset. So that was really cool. The next part is perfectionism, and I think I have a problem with perfectionism because I keep working on the same book. I keep wanting to fix things. I keep seeing things that I think need to be fixed. And the couple of quotes that stood out in the perfectionist section were, "With practice, we learn how to hear the desired frequency on request. We tune in to the frequency we want." And that goes with synchronicity. And actually, I think that was in the listening part. Perfectionism, a refusal to let yourself move forward. And where was it in the book? Midway through a project, the perfectionist decides to read it all over, outline it, see where it's going. And where is it going? Nowhere very fast. The perfectionist is never satisfied. The perfectionist never says, "This is pretty good. I think I'll just keep going." To the perfectionist, there is always room for improvement. The perfectionist calls this humility. In reality, it is egotism. It is pride that makes us want to write a perfect script, paint a perfect painting, perform a perfect audition monologue. Perfectionism is not a quest for the best. It is the pursuit of the worst in ourselves, the part that tells us that nothing we do will ever be good enough, that we should try again. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've always thought that I wasn't a perfectionist, that I was willing to let things go, and that I was able to say, well, this isn't my best, but it's going to take too long, like the idea of a B is good enough in school. If I tried hard enough, I could probably get an A, but it's not worth the extra amount of time and energy to get the A. A B is still better than a C. And so that was kind of how I went through high school and college. It was like, well, the extra effort to get that next higher grade is something I could get, but my time would be better spent elsewhere working on another class to get a grade from a C to a B instead of just focusing on one class for a B to an A, or getting more shifts at work to make more money to pay for college. So I've always thought that I was not a perfectionist, that I wasn't completely type A. But when I read this, I'm like, oh man, I go back and I reread my work from the beginning over and over and over. I'm like one of those writers where the first 60 pages has been read a bazillion times, and the last 2/3 of the book needs significant work, and I need to just move forward. And I mean, I hate to admit that online, that the last 2/3 of the book is the part that needs the most work, but that's where I am. That's the kind of writer I have been, and I need to let go of that type of perfectionism, because that's why the book isn't completed. That's why I need to do a full draft all the way. I mean, it is a full draft, but not all of the scenes are completely ready, because I keep going back to the beginning and changing things and making it better. I keep thinking I'm making the book better, and I am making the book better, but I'm not making it better by finishing it completely, by getting through all the way to the end and then going back to the beginning and tidying it up. I'm not really finishing the first draft every time, because I stop and I go back to the beginning and I outline it again. I mean, I'm doing exactly what this is saying for perfectionism, and I don't believe I'm a perfectionist. So it was kind of a big blow to my ego to hear I was egotistical by doing that, and I've been doing that for years, and that's probably a big reason why I haven't gotten to the point where I can turn in a full manuscript to an editor, and that's probably my biggest hurdle. And to realize that this week was kind of like knocking me off my high horse. So the next section is risk, and risk has a quote that stood out that was, "The success of a creative recovery hinges on our ability to move out of the head and into action. And then in order to do something well, we must first be willing to do it badly. And I have problems with both of those things because I think about writing all the time and I don't necessarily sit down and write all the time. I wrote 5 days out of 7 days this week, but I didn't necessarily write for 6 hours each of those 5 days. I touched the writing, but I didn't write full time all day type of thing. But I had all day to sit down and do that. So I know that I can spend more. I know that there's this opportunity to spend more time on my writing, my actual sit down, fingers on the keyboard writing. And again, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't say this online, but this is the reality. And I think there's a lot of other writers and other artists that, these are their hurdles and they have to be real with themselves. How much time do you actually have to work on your art, whatever that type of art is? You probably have a lot more actual minutes in the day and during the week than you realize. I spent a lot of time watching TV this week, and maybe I needed it. Maybe I needed to fill the well in that sort of way. But next week I need to get down to it and spend more time on my actual big priority and get to it. So we will see how next week goes. But I'm extra motivated to spend more time on my actual writing instead of getting consumed by all the small things, and listening and recovering a sense of connection kind of made me listen up and say, oh, this is where I'm falling down. I need to spend more time actually listening and showing up at the page. If you're a painter, you need to show up at the canvas and be ready to listen. As a writer, I thought, well, I sit down and the flow isn't, I'm not always able to drop down the well. But the idea of sitting down and listening for 15 minutes and working on something, usually after 15 minutes, I get sucked into something. And if I can just start, and this part of the chapter, or the paragraphs about risk, are talking about moving out of the head and into action. If I can just move out of thinking about writing and sit down and start and just be at the page for 15 minutes, commit to 15 minutes and know that I have all afternoon or all morning. I have 4 hours or 6 hours to sit there. I'm available. I have the time to fall down the well and get lost. And I just need to sit down for the first 15 minutes. I can do Pomodoros all morning long and spend, set a timer for 25 minutes. And then when it goes off, I can take a 5-minute break and feel like I did something. And I did more than just make a Facebook post or make an Instagram post. And yes, it's important to be on social media, but it's so much more fulfilling to have done a writing session. And I'm more motivated to do another writing session because I've gotten involved in a scene and I have ideas springing up, and maybe I fell down the well and I write past that timer and I reset it and I think, okay, I'm doing another session, and I get excited because I've fallen down the well and I'm in the flow. And then I can keep track of how long I've been writing and be, just that much more excited about my accomplishment for the day. And then I can do my Instagram posts afterwards and watch TV if I've gotten so much done. So listening to myself this week and seeing what I haven't been doing and the idea that I have the available time to do it has been really motivating, and kind of recognizing the reality that I am a perfectionist and that I need to just move forward. Every week I just need to start on the next chapter. And regardless of how much I did or didn't get done on the week before, I just need to keep moving forward. I just need to keep pushing forward, and if I want to work on a prior chapter, I can, but I have to keep moving forward. I can't stop the momentum. The next chapter has to be the next week. And during the week, I can look back and work on those other chapters, but I can't neglect the next chapter because of those prior chapters. So the one after that was jealousy, and I didn't really look at any quotes in jealousy because jealousy for me isn't really a thing, and I know there are people who have, lots of problems with professional jealousy, or, looking at older writers, like the classic writers and even, current writers, and thinking, oh, I wish, if I could be a better writer than that, or I could paint better than that if I just, applied myself. But I don't have, like, that doesn't happen to me. Like, I don't think like that. My problem is perfectionism and the whole issues around risk. And I guess the thing with risk this week that I did as far as the check-in was I recorded myself playing a video game. And I feel like it's a little embarrassing how the video game, like this, the session ended. And so I'm not entirely sure that I want to post it online because video game commenters can be very cruel, and I don't know if I want to open myself up to that. And so far my channel has been Artist Way videos and planner videos, and I don't know how much those people are going to be interested in seeing me play a video game, but this is my nest, and that's the whole point, is that I'm going to put things that I'm interested in. It's my nest, and yes, I want people to be interested in my videos, but I don't necessarily want to make people not watch because it's things I don't like. So it's kind of a rock and a hard place. I haven't decided if I'm going to post that video at all, or if I'm going to re-record the video that I did, or if I'm not going to post it, or if I'm not going to re-record or post anything with video games at all either. So I haven't decided, but that was kind of my risk that I did this week, because I just went ahead and recorded this video and thought, oh, I'll post it, and then I rewatched it and I thought, oh, I don't know, this is really embarrassing. So part of me wants to post it kind of because it's embarrassing and just sort of put myself out there, and part of me is like, this is the world, this will be out there forever. I don't really know if it's worth the embarrassment to put this out there. I could just show some friends and have a good laugh and leave it private. Without putting my reputation on the line, or I could re-record it. So I'm not sure, I haven't decided. But yeah, so jealousy, I don't have anything. I don't really have an issue with jealousy, but I thought the paragraphs on jealousy were well written, and that people who resonate with having issues with jealousy, that probably would be very helpful for them. And there was an exercise section on jealousy, and that would probably be helpful as well for people who have issues with that, and it was like how to overcome their jealousy with it. So I recommend checking that out if you have issues with that, or the perfectionism risk area if you are like me and have problems with that. I think that would be helpful, because I found the perfectionism risk area to be quite a wake-up call, and also helpful in kind of like steps for me to kind of reframe and think about, okay, this is part of who I am, and I don't know if this is ever going to change, but this is how I can, just knowing that these are my tendencies, then I can kind of combat how I tend to be, and so I need to focus on not being that way. If I want to continue to move forward, it's going to be more difficult for me to push myself. I mean, I have to push myself harder than maybe someone who has a jealousy problem. Person with a jealousy issue is going to have to work on other sorts of things, because they may not have a perfectionist problem. I mean, they may have both. Some people may have both problems. But so, what else for the check-in? I think that's it. There wasn't really any other type of synchronicity. I didn't really go anywhere the days that I watched TV. I kind of just stayed home and cleaned. I did go for a run this week. I did like a walk run, and my knee got injured, and so I've been kind of hobbling around and not really I've been trying to rest and ice it and not really walk around too much the last couple of days. I'm kind of injured, and it's starting to recover, but it's really swollen and sore, so that wasn't very nice. I've been listening to my body as well, and trying to physically recover from that. So we'll see how next week goes for that. So it's hard to do the walks, like she kind of talks about, doing 20-minute walks and then doing a longer hour walk every week, kind of going along with the book, so you can kind of listen to your inner artist as well and connect with yourself. And that's not this week, that's just the book in general talks about that at the very beginning as a habit to do every week. And I was trying to walk every day for a while, and then I was doing it, and then I kind of fell off the wagon because it's winter here right now and it's cold, and but now it's hard because my knee is swollen. I'm trying to stay off of it, but hopefully it'll start feeling better, and walking is probably the best thing I can do for it right now, is to keep the joint mobile and stretch it out. So next week is, for week 8, recovering a sense of strength. And I like the title. I'm hoping that, getting knocked off my horse here with the perfectionism, I could use a little recovering strength. And I'm hoping to figure out, with the practice, the whole idea of practicing and getting in tune with the frequency of dropping down the well, and trying to figure out how to do that, and practicing doing that, and showing up at the page for me, for my art, for writing. I would like to work on that next week, and hopefully I can strengthen that. I'm not sure exactly if that's the angle she's going to be going with strength, if it's strengthening creativity, or if it'll be something else. But I will let you know next week. Thanks for watching.